All right. So if you haven't already heard, coming out in about the past hour, we're hearing that President Donald Trump has announced that there has been a ceasefire agreement that has now been reached. You can see here Iran war live updates. Trump announces ceasefire agreement. Now you can also see here coming out peace deal between the United States and Iran reached. Trump says live updates. Now I'm going to be taking a look at the latest video footage and articles coming out on this. Now, one of the things is, do you think that this peace deal agreement that Trump has announced is going to hold? They're saying that there is going to be a signing that's going to take place Friday in Geneva, Switzerland. Do you think that we're going to make it to that? Now, we're also hearing that there's potential attacks between Israel and Iran that are on hold at the moment. And we're going to see now President Donald Trump coming out and announcing this, but we're going to see the IRGC is saying there is plans to be a signing, but we're going to take a look at the information coming out. Let me know your thoughts. I'm seeing people saying, no, this is not going to hold. This is false peace. I see people saying no in the deal. I see people saying this is a complete fraud, no deal. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Now, this just coming out a little while ago, we're hearing Trump making this announcement, but Pakistan, the prime minister came out and said that a deal has been done. Trump is saying that a deal has been done, but we're going to wait and see, because we're hearing that Iran hardliners, I just shared with you, I think it was not even like an hour ago, I had just gotten off the live stream giving you updates that we heard that there was potential attacks. Iran was clearing their airspace, preparing for a ballistic missile launch against Israel. Israel was preparing for an attack to take place. Trump was on the phone with both sides saying, please stop cursing out Netanyahu, saying, what are you doing? I'm on the verge of a deal. Now he's coming out and making an announcement that he has a deal. And I see somebody saying it's a bad deal. I'm seeing other people saying complete clown show, upset with the way that Trump has been operating. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But let's go ahead and dive right into it, because left and right, breaking news is pouring in on this announcement by Donald Trump saying that he's got a deal today on his birthday. There's going to be a signing. But let's get to the details of this, okay? I'm going to get you guys caught up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so that way you can see it for yourself. The breaking news coming out. Let's watch these video clips pouring in. Hit the like button, subscribe if this is your first time here. Let's take a look.
Right now, have some breaking news on Live Now from Fox as President Trump says a deal between the United States and Iran is, quote, now complete, calling on this a ceasefire, as you can see on social media, for rapid response, saying a deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously here within authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade ships of the world. Start your engines, let the oil flow. This from President Donald Trump. So this coming in as there were a little bit speed bumps through the final checkered flag of this, but they are moving through with this deal, as we have heard from also Pakistan saying the United States and Iran have reached an agreement to end the war. Trey Ying's talking about this as the Pakistani prime minister. They have facilitated a lot of this, saying it has moved through. And we also want to give some more details about what's involved. Phil Stewart from Reuters saying President Trump issuing that statement, immediately confirming what the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday, telling the Journal that the deal will either be signed by electronically or by himself or Vice President J.D. Vance. So still unsure about some exact details about this, not necessarily available or made, as the signing will be Friday in Switzerland. It's not clear how quickly the strait might reopen to all traffic. The U.S. previously said it would ease its blockade of Iranian ports as the strait reopens and would agree to relax sanctions to allow Iran to sell more of its oil and strengthen its battered economy. So this is a key hurdle to get through. The next one, that window to negotiate about the key issue at large, those being nuclear capabilities. And we also saw some potential issues today on Sunday as President Trump urging no attacks by by Israel or Iran after Israel's military earlier today launched strikes on Hezbollah targets in Beirut, Lebanon, potentially complicating the finalization of this deal that just went through. So obviously Fox News, Trey Yingst reporting that he spoke to the president saying they still expected an agreement to be made, and now that is what we have in earnest, in full. So some major developments here on Live Now from Fox around a complete deal to have a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. They will reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and that will certainly ease some tensions and pressures in the region around the global world economy. Next up is determination about what the MOU looks like, what the next seal of negotiations are around those nuclear capabilities. But a monumental moment today on President Trump's 80th birthday, as this will be a lot of celebration around the United States. A deal reached between the U.S. and Iran. Again, just here on Live Now from Fox, as he says, hereby authorizing the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz, saying they will immediately remove.
So there you have it, you guys. Now, man, let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I got to say, we literally just, let me know your thoughts. I saw somebody in the comments saying this. We literally just saw them preparing to launch missiles and attack, and somebody said they're literally still firing on each other right now as we speak, yet they're claiming that there is a peace deal. Do you think that this is going to hold it? A lot of people are saying this in the comments, and I'd have to agree. It kind of feels forced. A lot of people saying he wanted to get this deal for his birthday, and I mean, you just can't force it. I mean, is it going to hold? Is it real? I hope it is, and I'm rooting for the U.S. I certainly, don't want the IRGC to win. I feel like they're a bunch of radical terrorists that want to shout death to America, death to Israel. But I mean, do you think that this is going to hold? I mean, I'm waiting to hear more coming out from the IRGC. And also we're hearing, it kind of sounds like it's a little bit of a compromise. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. They're saying that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, that they've managed to enrich the uranium up to 60%. They're a technical one step away from 90%, which would be weapons grade, where they'll be able to have nuclear weapons. We have not gotten rid of that in this. And just to clarify, this is not a deal. This is a memorandum of understanding. So in other words, this is a temporary 60-day ceasefire in which now we're going to discuss the nuclear weapons, but we're also going to allow the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, as you saw from the president's quote, and we're going to have a stop to the conflict. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is the end of it? I'm seeing so many people saying, no, this is not. Now, we will see, but let's take a look at some more of the reporting that's coming out on this. Let's go ahead and take a look here. But I mean, like a lot of people are saying, we literally just had them firing a little while ago, but now they're claiming that there's a deal. So we'll see. They're saying that they're going to sign this. It's going to extend it for 60 days. Do you trust this? And a lot of people saying, what's the point of even doing a deal with terrorists? They're not going to maintain and keep their word. I see Andolips saying, no, this peace deal is nothing. It's worthless. Let me know if you agree in the comments. Now we're going to see. We're going to see. Apparently, Donald Trump is saying that it's done. We're hearing from the Prime Minister of Pakistan that was helping mediate these talks is saying it's done. But let's take a look at some more of the information that's coming out on this so that way you can see it. The latest coming out in about the past hour or so, we've been starting to see this pour in. Now, I actually was trying to hold off on going live because I wanted to see if more information would come out from Iran. If Iran would just come out and say, no, it's false, because that's literally the pattern we've been seeing. Trump saying there's a deal, Iran saying, no, there's not. It's been about an hour. I've not seen anything like that coming out from the IRGC other than them saying that there is going to be a signing. So let's take a look, though, at some more of the reporting that's been coming out.
The Fox News alert. President Trump says a deal with Iran is now complete. Moments ago, he announced on Truth Social that the Strait of Hormuz will open without a toll and that the authorized removal of the U.S. naval blockade will go in effect. Let's bring back Trey Yingst live from Tel Aviv with more details. Trey.
Yeah, Joey, a major announcement by President Trump after more than 100 days of a state of war between the United States and Iran. A deal has been reached. President Trump, I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. President Donald J. Trump. The president making this announcement on his birthday from the White House in Washington. There was another statement released by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, one of the key mediators in the conversations that led to this agreement to end the conflict between the United States and Iran. The Pakistani Prime Minister made a lengthy announcement thanking both the United States and Qatar for their role in reaching this agreement. The Prime Minister says there will be an official signing ceremony on Friday, June 19th in Switzerland. So again, a major development here as President Trump announces there is a deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is open once again. Those vessels that are trapped in the Persian Gulf will be able to export that crude oil from these Gulf countries. The naval blockade lifted on Iranian ports, and these detailed discussions on Iran's nuclear program set to begin. A major development in the Middle East, and for the first time in months, the region is breathing a sigh of relief.
Trey, I want to get into your experience, the conversations you've had with your sources, things of that nature. What does this mean in your mind right now? So we say we're removing the blockade. Obviously, we're not taking all of our naval assets out of the region. He says that he's authorized the toll-free opening, which means that he has assurances from Iran they're not going to try and put that toll on ships. I know that a senior administration official did a briefing a couple of days ago and said, hey, it'll be kind of a slow walk because certain companies, certain countries aren't as sure as others that that strait is not mined, and we're still kind of building confidence. So what do you think the first steps of third parties will be, those ships and other countries, things of that nature?
Well, I think that the president getting this across the finish line tonight was very significant because, remember, Israel was bracing for the possibility of incoming Iranian ballistic missiles just hours ago. Yeah. And the president clearly got on the phone and told them, hold your fire, sign the deal. And that's what's happened here. And again, this announcement by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, along with the announcement by President Trump on Truth Social. The fact that there is an immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz is significant because this is 50% of what the president was trying to get. The other 50% has to do with Iran's nuclear program, and these detailed discussions will take place in the days and weeks ahead. When we think back to when Operation Epic Fury began, there was one goal that President Trump had, and he told us this goal over and over again when we would speak with the president. He said Iran cannot have a path to a nuclear weapon. And during Operation Epic Fury, not only was the Iranian military degraded, but you also had this naval blockade of Iranian ports that was crippling the Iranian economy. It put the Iranian regime up against a wall in a position where ultimately they had to make this deal. And when we think back a year ago from today, there were ballistic missiles in the skies of Israel during the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. And at the end of that war last summer, President Trump ordered B-2 bombers over Iranian nuclear facilities, Fordow and Isfahan, and buried that highly enriched uranium deep underground. And we have to consider that moment when we look at the significance of what was just announced by President Trump, because this is an agreement between the United States and Iran, but it comes after the United States destroyed Iranian nuclear facilities, decimated the Iranian Navy, took out many of the production lines for Iranian ballistic missiles and drones, and has now set a new path for the region. And that is the hope of President Trump, that this is going to lead to these broader normalization deals across the Middle East. And he urged Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and others to normalize ties with Israel in the aftermath of Operation Epic Fury. Because, again, the vision here for the president is a Middle East where there isn't a constant state of war, but rather opportunity and prosperity for countries across the region. And so it's a significant announcement. Certainly, there is still a lot of work to be done. There is a big difference between signing and implementing a deal. But this is a major first step toward peace in the region. And the president has gotten this deal across the finish line that will now immediately open the Strait of Hormuz, free those vessels that are currently trapped in the Persian Gulf, and now enter into these detailed negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. Guys?
So, Trey, I want to dig into that a little bit. Obviously, as far as we're concerned politically and economically, that strait being open for free passage is a major deal, and it's certainly nothing to scoff at in the immediate. It's great news. I would say, in terms of what's to come next, does this mean when we say we have a deal, does this mean that Iran effectively said, all right, we're not going to pursue a nuclear program, or does it mean we have a deal to have more talks on your nuclear program and what we're going to do with the remnants of it? Just to clarify that, because sometimes it gets a little sticky exactly what the Iranians have agreed to, whether it's just in theory or whether it's a little bit more definitive.
Yeah, it's a great question. A senior administration official was talking to a small group of reporters late last week and indicated as part of this memorandum of understanding, the Iranians will agree to not pursue a nuclear weapon, but they'll also agree to this process that will ultimately lead to the highly enriched uranium that is currently buried deep underground in the aftermath of Operation Midnight Hammer to be diluted and destroyed. And remember, that highly enriched uranium is what is needed to create a nuclear weapon. It's what the Iranians said they had enough of to create 11 nuclear bombs. And it's one of the main reasons that President Trump ordered Operation Epic Fury. When we think back, though, to what this agreement means moving forward, we have to look also at the sanctions relief for the Iranian regime. The Iranians will receive some sanctions relief, but according to this senior administration official, this is contingent on the Iranians upholding their end of the bargain. And so they're not going to get any sort of relief unless they are moving forward with keeping the Strait of Hormuz open and ensuring that this nuclear material is ultimately exported or destroyed inside of their country. And so, again, this is a new chapter in the region, and it's not going to necessarily go perfectly smoothly. But the fact that this announcement, especially from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, includes a ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon, which means Hezbollah, it's a new opportunity for the region, and it's an opportunity for the region to look forward and past this round of conflict. And there will be a lot of statements made by the Iranian regime in the days ahead. It will not be uncommon to see officials in Tehran focus on one specific part of the agreement that looks good for the Iranians. Sure. But that is what they do, and it's often how they use state media. It's important to look at the deal as a whole and what it means. And it means that the Strait of Hormuz is immediately open. The U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports is lifted, and ultimately, you are not going to see this exchange of fire taking place across the region like we've seen for the past 3.5 months. And so it is a new step in a new direction for the Middle East. And as the president has reiterated in the conversations that we've had during interviews with the commander-in-chief, he is looking for a situation in the Middle East that leads to more peace and prosperity. You have the normalization deals and the efforts toward a deal between Israel and Lebanon to ultimately disarm Hezbollah. You have the Abraham Accords that normalize ties between the UAE and Israel and Bahrain and Israel and others. And those are really the best example from the first Trump administration of the opportunity that exists in the region. When we first started reporting here in the Middle East, when I arrived here 8 years ago, you couldn't fly on a plane from Tel Aviv to Dubai. And now it's one of the most popular destinations for Israelis and Emiratis. And so you have this situation where there is opportunity in the aftermath. And so, again, the implementation of a deal is very different than signing a deal, but this is the first step toward opening the Strait of Hormuz and ultimately entering into those more detailed discussions on Iran's nuclear program.
All right, let me pause it right there, and I got to ask you guys a question. Do you think that this deal is good or bad? You heard him say that this is opening the door to the Strait of Hormuz being cleared out and opened, and now discussing the nuclear materials. But a lot of people saying, no, this is not taking care of the job. And also, let me share with you something that I'm seeing here as I'm taking a look at live feeds coming in. Let me pull this over here 1 second. I'm checking what is pouring in because, like I said, before I reported, I actually waited a little while because I wanted to see what it was that Iran had to say, because what we'll hear from the United States and what we'll hear from Iran are completely different stories. IRGC coming out and confirming, yes, there will be a signing. That's about all we're hearing from the IRGC on this. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. Live updates. Iran War Live. U.S.-Iran confirm peace deal is in place. Take a look at this. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says U.S.-Iran peace deal has been reached and is now in place, with the signing ceremony scheduled for the 19th in Switzerland. Trump confirms that the ceasefire agreement with Iran is now completed, announcing that the end of the U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz Take a look at this. Does Trump announcement pave the way for sustainable peace? Let me ask you that. 12 minutes ago, Israel's right wing sees this agreement as a strategic defeat. So I ask you the question, is this a good deal or bad? Is this good or bad? Do you think that this is where we need to be at this point? Yes or no? Let me know your thoughts, but we're hearing that a lot of the right-wing conservative portion of Israel is saying this is a defeat. Iran is winning by allowing this to unfold. They're not happy with President Donald Trump. Let me know your thoughts. Take a look. This announcement by the U.S. President Donald Trump will not be taken well by Israel. In the Israeli media, particularly right-wing outlets that are usually closely aligned with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, there has been an attack against the U.S. president, which in itself is very unusual. Israel is not happy at this announcement. The U.S. president was more popular in the polls than the Israeli prime minister until very short while ago, as we're hearing this announcement being made. And the fact that the positions of the United States and Israel do not align when it comes to Iran, coupled with the announcement of this deal by Donald Trump, could force Israel to stop bombing Lebanon and perhaps even withdraw from Lebanon, or at the very least halt its invasion. So we're hearing that in this deal, they are saying that Israel is not going to be attacking Lebanon anymore. Israel is saying we have the right to defend ourselves. We saw this morning an attack by Hezbollah on Israel. Israel responded back, they're saying disproportionately. Donald Trump getting on the phone as Iran clears airspace, planning to launch ballistic missiles into Israel. Donald Trump calls both sides, says, stop the fighting, tells Benjamin Netanyahu, what the F are you doing? Cursing him out on the phone, saying, I'm on the brink of a deal. Now we're hearing that Israel is saying this is not a deal that we are happy about whatsoever. We have seen a lot of clashing between the United States and Israel on their stance on Iran. And that's actually why I posed the question in my last live stream. If Israel launches an attack back against Iran, if Iran launches ballistic missiles, will the United States stand with Israel as they retaliate against Iran, or will we see a severing between the two nations? Right now, we're hearing that they are not aligning. Things are breaking apart as United States is trying to get a deal with Iran. This is the subject of outrage for the Israeli right wing. It is being seen as a political defeat for Israel. They're saying that this claim of a deal is bad. It is a defeat that we should not be stopping at this time. We've actually heard Benjamin Netanyahu literally say, you cannot negotiate with terrorists, the IRGC and their proxy groups. They are liars. No matter, even if you make a deal with them, they're going to break the deal. They only know peace through strength, and we should be destroying the regime. They understand that this deal will be viewed as a victory for Tehran. And that victory, in turn, represents a strategic defeat for Israel. So Israel, we're hearing, not happy about this. Now, U.S. fuel prices drop as the Iran ceasefire deal eases geopolitical tension. So here in the United States, we're hearing that the prices of oil, gas should be starting to come down just at this announcement. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has cast falling fuel costs as a win for his country, telling Fox News the administration would keep working to drive energy prices down. Oil fell on Monday after the announcement of a ceasefire deal between Washington and Tehran, with Brent dropping about 4 cents to $83.82 a barrel, and U.S. crude down 4.6% to $80.95. The move reflects the market's reaction to the June 14th U.S.-Iran MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Again, recall, this is not a deal. This is the beginning of an understanding where we're going to have 60 days to discuss all of the things that we want to get done and the possibility of de-escalation after weeks of heightened risk. Omad Shakari, a senior visiting fellow at the George Mason University, told Al Jazeera. Traders are removing part of the geopolitical risks premium that had pushed prices higher. So we're seeing gas prices going up. Israel is not happy about this, saying this is a defeat. This is a strategic defeat. You are losing to Iran by doing this deal. UK is ready to back the U.S. and Iran's talks as Starmer calls for a toll-free straight navigation. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says that the UK stands ready to support the technical talks between the US and Iran, which are set to begin after agreeing to halt hostilities on all fronts. Attention must now turn to fully implementing the Memorandum of Understanding to ensure that the strait reopens and remains fully and permanently open, and that the detailed elements of a nuclear agreement are finalized, Starmer said. And that is the thing Donald Trump is saying. I started this war to begin with because we were concerned about Iran having a nuclear weapon. We're going to be discussing the details of that now. We are clear that toll-free freedom of navigation must now be restored in the waterways, he added. Now, Qatar welcomes U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah Rahman Al Thani says his country welcomes the agreement reached between the U.S. and Iran on the Memorandum of Understanding. We extend our thanks to our brothers in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and to all regional and international parties who contributed to creating the conditions for reaching this understanding, he wrote on X. We look forward to all parties engaging in the upcoming negotiations in a positive and constructive spirit, contributing to consolidating and building upon this progress. We affirm that the state of Qatar will always remain a steadfast supporter of these efforts and of all that promotes security and stability at the regional and international levels through dialogue and peaceful means. U.S. and Iran ceasefire deal expected to go ahead despite Israeli attempts to derail the diplomacy coming out from Al Jazeera. I've been in touch with the White House back and forth over the last few minutes, trying to nail down where things stand, how all of this is playing out. And what is clear is that there has been a breakthrough in the terms of an agreement with Iran, even if the timetables and what we expected might happen are now looking a little different. Now, what happened within the last hour is that Wall Street Journal here in the United States began reporting that the U.S. president would issue a statement that an agreement had been reached between the United States and Iran. In that announcement, the U.S. president did a couple of things that he said would not happen until the Memorandum of Understanding was signed. However, because of the incident that occurred hours earlier, that attack by the Israeli military in Lebanon, it had started to look as though things were falling apart and that there would not be the agreement that the U.S. president had suggested would be signed on Sunday and conducted virtually. So we're hearing that the president gave a little bit of concessions to try to get things through, push through past the finish line. Now, but we now know, given the fact that the U.S. president has released a statement, that the agreement still stands despite any attempts to derail diplomacy. Now, they're talking about those attacks that we saw taking place today between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah initially attacking Israel, Israel attacking back against Lebanon. Donald Trump saying that it was disproportionate, that Netanyahu was, what the F are you doing? You're going to derail things. Now we're hearing that the hardliners, the IRGC, was saying, don't do it. Now we're hearing that they actually are saying, no, just go forward, get it done, and give a little bit of concessions, give a little bit of leniency to get things going here, to get that Memorandum of Understanding. Now, U.S. Vice President hails Middle East deal as a potential new era for Iran. So we are hearing that Israel not happy about this. Let me know your thoughts. We're hearing that Donald Trump and Netanyahu not seeing eye to eye lately. Now, let's take a look at the commentary account for Saeed Abbas Arachi. You can see here posts coming out about 3 hours ago. President Donald Trump says there should be no more attacks by Israel anywhere in Lebanon. Iranian foreign minister says the United States bears the direct responsibility for Israel's ceasefire violations. Breaking, Iran's highest national security body warns that a response is imminent. Now, this is where we had left off. We had heard that there was going to be a response. Iran was clearing the airspace, preparing ballistic missiles. The executive order was issued and an imminent fire was coming. And we heard that that was where we had left off. Now we're hearing that this deal has just been reached and that some concessions have been given by the United States in order to just push this through. The United States saying we're going to reel things back. Phone calls with Israel and Iran to get this done. U.S. President Donald Trump says on Truth Social that Israel's attack on Beirut's southern suburbs on Sunday should not have happened, particularly on a special day when we are so close to a peace deal with Iran, breaking, U.S. President Donald Trump says he will ask Iran not to retaliate against Israel following an Israeli attack on Beirut's southern suburbs, which killed at least 3 people. So we're hearing that this has been unfolding over the past couple of hours. And now in just the past hour, we're getting the reporting coming in from Trey Yingst, who's live in Tel Aviv, who is saying that they are saying a deal has been reached. So let's go ahead and keep looking at the video footage here so that way you can see it for yourself as they're claiming that this is done. But I asked the question, do you have faith in this memorandum of understanding? Is this a win for the United States, or is this considered a loss as some of the reporting is coming out? Do you think this is even going to hold? Where are your thoughts on this? Let me know what you think, but let's go back to the video footage.
Trey, on that point, this news, this announcement obviously is very significant. And we're treating it as major breaking news because it is. And I think a lot of viewers at home might be wondering, okay, good, there's a deal. They've got this signing ceremony apparently on deck for next Friday, this coming Friday in Switzerland. That's all wonderful, but is it a good deal? Assessing that is going to depend on the details of what is on the paper that they're all going to sign. When are we going to get a real sense of what's actually in the document in a concrete sense? Because we've heard assurances from administration officials saying it'll be X, Y, and Z, which sound promising to me. Then you hear the spin from the Iranian regime, which gets then disputed or swatted down. When will the world get a sense of what's actually in this deal? Do you have any sense on the timeline there?
The short answer is we don't know. The latest information that we have as it relates to the details of this agreement came from a senior administration official on Friday who briefed a small group of journalists. And within this, we got details on the timeline and how things will unfold. This is not immediate relief for the Iranians. They will have to adhere to their end of the bargain before they see any sort of relief for their country. But remember, it wasn't just the United States that had a say in what was taking place. It was also these Gulf countries like Qatar and Pakistan. Pakistan, obviously not a Gulf country, but certainly a mediator in all of this. But there were countries involved, and they had a say in how this would unfold, understanding that Iran is notoriously difficult to deal with at the negotiating table. And this was a challenge for the Trump administration because this is a country that ultimately kept stepping back from the table. And every time the Trump administration offered an olive branch to Iran, they wouldn't take it. And we saw this last week. It was a moment that I would say was a turning point that actually led to this agreement taking place. President Trump was sitting in the Situation Room, and he was joined by Vice President Vance and his special envoys, Witkoff and Kushner. And they were at the table, and I was speaking with the president on the phone, and another phone rang inside the Situation Room, and it was the Iranians. And ultimately, the president left our call, answered their call, and they were asking him to stop the bombing. And ultimately, he did. And he said, you have to sign the agreement, and I'll stop the bombing. But this moment set things advance. It advanced the conversation to a place that actually allowed this agreement to get signed. Because, again, the Iranians, according to President Trump, were tapping the United States along. And ultimately, the United States, after the Apache helicopter was taken down by an Iranian drone, responded with heavy airstrikes that also included 49 Tomahawk missiles launched toward targets as close as 40 miles from the capital of Tehran. And this sent a very clear message to the Iranian regime. If you don't want to resolve this at the negotiating table, it will be resolved on the battlefield. And the Iranians can look at their Navy, they can look at the production lines for the ballistic missile and drone programs that exist in their country, and then they have a question to ask themselves. Is it worth it at this point? After Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed, along with 40 other senior officials, the second tier of officials in Iran taken out. And again, it raised this question for the regime, is it worth it? And ultimately, they decided to take this diplomatic path. And according to President Trump and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, they have signed a deal.
Trey, former President Obama was on TV earlier today saying, you know, whatever deal the president is able to sign, that it wouldn't be much different than his deal, the JCPOA. Can you tell us how this deal is different and how it is better?
So broadly speaking, the JCPOA deal negotiated under President Obama allowed Iran a path toward a nuclear program. Because when we talk about enriched uranium, and this is really important when we look at the difference in these deals here, and I don't want to give you too much of a lesson on enrichment, but it's actually quite important when we're talking about the Obama deal versus the deal that was just signed right now. During the Obama administration, it allowed Iran to continue enriching uranium. And the way that uranium is enriched, the uranium ore is actually extracted from the ground, and then through a chemical process, it turns into yellow cake. And then another chemical process, it turns into hexafluoride gas. And they spin that gas very rapidly in advanced centrifuges. And ultimately, the heavier particles go to the outside and the lighter ones stay in the middle. And this is repeated over and over again until you get to a higher purity of enriched uranium. And to take enriched uranium from, let's say, 5 to 10% to 20%, ultimately to 60%, and eventually 90%, which is weapons-grade material, can be a matter of weeks, if not days. And so allowing the Iranians to keep advanced centrifuges and then enrich uranium, eventually closer to weapons-grade material, set them on a path toward a weapon, because that is a process that is needed to create a nuclear weapon, even if they weren't doing it at that moment. This agreement does not allow the Iranians, according to this senior administration official, to keep any of their enriched material. And that means they're not going to be able to repeat that process in advanced centrifuges, and then once U.S. forces leave the region, increase the purity of the enriched uranium again toward a nuclear weapon. And so it's quite different in that regard. The sanctions relief is also different because the sanctions relief is contingent on the Iranians adhering to their end of the bargain.
You know,
Guys,
Trey, we hear about things like sanctions. For example, the amount of sanctions that have gone on Russia, the amount of sanctions that have been on Iran for a really long time, or sanctions on North Korea. And here we sit believing they probably have a nuclear program, if not a functional weapon at this point. And the reason why I bring that up is this seems like such a different scenario in the world than when the JCPOA was signed. For example, there have been since February, well, there are months worth of a direct attacks in Iran. If we go all the way back to Midnight Hammer, that was June 21st of 2025. For a year, we have attacked at will inside the borders of Iran when necessary or when President Trump felt like it was the right thing to do. Then you have the Abraham Accords. You have in February, just right after the initiation of Epic Fury, Iran attacks their Middle Eastern allies or their Middle Eastern neighbors. All of those things create a completely different scenario than the JCPOA. And I'd love for you to elaborate on that, because I think that's the part of this that may not be written on a piece of paper, but can create a completely different situation with this deal that may get ironed out than anything we've ever had before.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about these Gulf countries like Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, these are countries that the Iranians, during Operation Epic Fury, came out and said that they were friendly with, and then bombed their civilian population with medium-range ballistic missiles and drones. And so when we look at that at face value, it is a stark contrast to what we've seen from the Trump administration as it relates to those Gulf countries. These Gulf countries have interestingly been working together in a joint defense as a result of the coordination behind the scenes from the Trump administration. And some of that has to do with the trust that was built, actually all the way back to the agreement that was reached between Israel and Hamas inside Gaza to free the hostages and end the war there. And it's all connected, because there was a moment where you had President Trump and you had his envoys in the region, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, go to Egypt. And it's a very interesting but long story. But the short story is that the president actually got on the phone to get the agreement across the finish line. And when this was taking place, you had his envoys in the region building trust between these Gulf countries, because they understood that the next hurdle to peace was ultimately the Iranian regime that was dealt with during Operation Epic Fury. Guys?
Trey, thank you so much for bringing this breaking news to us.
Man, you guys, what do you think? Do you think that this is even going to hold? Do you think that we can trust the IRGC right now? Let me know your thoughts. Now, we're going to see, because this is going to be, again, just to clarify, we're saying deal, agreement. This is a memorandum of understanding. In other words, we're saying we're going to do essentially a extension of the ceasefire for 60 days. We're going to discuss nuclear materials and some of the things that we're interested in. We're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. So these are some of the things that they're saying they're going to be discussing. Now, also, like I said, I wasn't 100% certain that we are on this path or not. I saw the president make this announcement, but we've seen him make announcements and then Iran come back and refute them. Now, we're hearing that the IRGC is coming out and agreeing with this. We heard the Pakistani leader saying, yes, this is going to get done. So we're going to see. But the question is this even going to hold? And also, it just seems very peculiar when just a couple of hours ago, we had heard that Iran was getting ready to launch ballistic missiles. It was confirmed. Israel was saying they were prepared to take on ballistic missile fire and get ready to retaliate again, escalation of war. And now we're hearing things have ceased. Now, why is that? We are hearing from Al Jazeera reporting that the president gave a little bit of concessions in this deal. Now, what does that look like? Let me know your thoughts. Let's take a look at some more video footage, though, to get caught up on the latest on this news.
Good day, I'm Hallie Jackson, and we are coming on the air with breaking news. We are learning a deal to help end the war against Iran is set to be signed on Friday in Switzerland. This is just into us, according to the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Look at this. Just moments ago, posted a deal has been reached, a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran here, and that military operations will cease. And if you see it there, including in Lebanon, that's critical because this is where Israel and Hezbollah militants have been at war. The president, remember, is said to head to Europe not long from now to attend the G7 summit outside Geneva after, of course, watching that UFC fight happen on the White House South Lawn. Now, a source familiar with the deal in question tells NBC News that it's expected to extend the current ceasefire, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's critical. Remember, that's that key waterway that transmits a lot of the world's oil. And it'll also see Iran commit to giving up its nuclear program and material. A lot of questions on that piece of it. I want to start with our chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons, who is tracking this all. Keir, I know you've been working your sources here, joining us from Doha. Significant news here from the Pakistani Prime Minister, set to be signed on Friday. Walk us through some of the details.
That's right, Hallie, and we are just reading, all of us, that post by the Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif, and I'll just look down and take you through a little bit more of it, Hallie, because there is a lot that he has posted. He says, following intensive talks, we are pleased to announce that the peace deal between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran has been reached. And what he says crucially is both sides have declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. And then, as you mentioned, he goes on to say that there will be an official signing ceremony on Friday the 19th of June in Switzerland. Now, of course, that will be just after the G7. So who will be at that signing ceremony? Will President Trump be there? Will Vice President Vance be there? It doesn't appear that he answers that in this post, though he does go on to talk about his praise for Doha here, Qatar, which has been intensely involved in what really, honestly, Hallie, has been a very, very tense day today. It began with Israel saying that Hezbollah in Lebanon had fired drones into Israel. Then there was that Israeli strike in Beirut, Israel said, on Hezbollah in Beirut. 3 people were killed, according to the Lebanese. And then Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that he sanctioned that strike and that Israel would always strike back if it was targeted. And then a post from President Trump saying that that strike by Israel should not have happened. So putting distance between himself and the leader of Israel. Extraordinary events. And now there was a Qatari team in Iran. Now this announcement by Pakistan, which has been the lead mediator in all of this, that it says that the two sides have reached a deal. I will say one other thing, Hallie. It's midnight, just after midnight here in Tehran. In Tehran. I'm in Doha, where it's half an hour later, so it's 12:05 here. And I was told by one Iranian in Tehran, close to the government there, that they would not want to announce this on President Trump's birthday. And it looks like this announcement has been made minutes after President Trump's birthday was over.
Well, Keir, I want you to stand by for a second, because when you talk about President Trump, as you were speaking, Keir, he has posted online reaction to this, and I want to read what he says. I think we have it built. We can show it to people here. He says the deal is now complete. He goes on to say the opening of the Strait of Hormuz will happen, going on to add ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. Let me go to Gabe Gutierrez, who is joining us from Geneva, just ahead of the G7 there, our senior White House correspondent. I think it's important to note here, Gabe, obviously the Strait of Hormuz was a critical priority for the Trump administration in any kind of a peace deal in any of these negotiations. It is also not instantaneous, right? Does this mean that tomorrow morning, Monday morning, we snap our fingers and the ships pass through no problem?
Highly unlikely, Hallie. And look, this announcement by the president came less than 15 minutes or so since the Pakistani post. So a lot of the details here are still being worked out. But the president trying to frame it in his terms, saying that he fully authorizes the lifting of that naval blockade, certainly very key in this entire negotiation. And as Keir was just referencing, there was a lot of fast-moving developments today, Hallie, with the president visibly frustrated with the actions of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the attack on Lebanon. So we are asking White House officials for some clarity here. Does this mean that perhaps a top member of the administration, even the president himself, could attend this signing that the Pakistanis say is now on Friday? We don't quite know. Now, here in Geneva, actually across the border in France, we're expecting the president to travel here tomorrow. It's still just before midnight here, and the president is expected here for the G7 summit. There were some protests earlier tonight, thousands of protesters taking to the streets. This whole Iranian conflict, the Iran war, looming over this summit, but certainly some may breathe a sigh of relief now that some sort of tentative deal has been reached as we work to learn more about the details of all of this. But certainly, Hallie, this is something that the president had been wanting for quite some time, even as he attends that UFC fight on the White House grounds later on this evening, East Coast time. Now the president will be coming here to France for this G7 summit, presumably with this deal done. Although, again, the particulars are still, we're still waiting on details of what this all means, Hallie.
We'll hold that thought.
All right, you guys. So like he said, we're waiting to get some of the details as to what all of this really means. Now, I've been taking a look here at the live feeds, and I'm seeing some people posting some things as to what they say this actually means. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this here. 1 second. Let me pull this on the screen. Let me get your thoughts on this. So on X here, you can see a post coming out 25 minutes ago from Betty Johnson breaking J.D. Vance lays out the three most important items for America in the new Iranian deal. Number one, the blockade must be lifted. Number two, nuclear weapons, no nuclear weapons. Number three, peace in the Middle East. This is peace through strength, absolute masterclass. Let me know, do you agree with this post from Benny Johnson? Now, they're saying that this is a memorandum of understanding. These are things that we're going to be discussing. This is not the deal that is finalizing this. Let me know your thoughts. Here's another one coming out from Eric Doherty. Just in, Vice President J.D. Vance announces the agreed to Trump-Iran peace deal blocks Iran from ever pursuing, procuring, or obtaining a nuclear weapon. Immediately open the Strait of Hormuz, lifts the U.S. naval blockade, opens up a huge investments for the region. Trump is a legend. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, from what I'm reading, what I understand, this is just the memorandum of understanding. It does not actually solidify these items. Let me know your thoughts. Iran deal details. War ends on all fronts. U.S. blockade lifted. U.S. troops withdraw. Hormuz opens. Sanctions are suspended. $300 billion for Iran reconstruction plan. $24 billion in Iranian assets freed, half up front. 60 days of nuclear talks, missiles, and resistance groups off agenda. Now, if that is the terms, that's basically what Iran was asking for. Let me know your thoughts. Now, see, we're getting, just depends on who you're looking at. If you're looking at Mr. Doherty or Mr. Johnson, or if you're looking at RT, literally back-to-back posts listing out different things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, as information starts to pour in about what is actually entailed in this deal, I'm going to be sure to share it so that way you can get more information on this. But let's take a look at what J.D. Vance, the vice president, actually had to say on this. I'm going to pull up some clips as we're hearing that he had spoken in detail about what has just unfolded just a little while ago with this deal with Iran. So let me go ahead and put this on the screen for you guys, and let's take a look. Let me know your thoughts. Is this a good deal or is it bad? Now, I know we're getting a bunch of conflicting information, but let's take a look and see what J.D. Vance had to say.
As Vice President J.D. Vance, Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, of course. Good to be with you.
This seems like you guys have gotten this to the finish line. It seems like there's an actual peace deal, at least at the moment, that's agreed upon and ready for signing. I'd love for you to tell us your thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, I do think it's a big moment for the United States of America, thanks, of course, to the president's leadership and the hard work of the entire team. Three things that I think are important for the American people just to appreciate about what this deal does for all of us as Americans. Number one, this is the immediate opening of the Straits of Hormuz and, of course, the lifting of the naval blockade that we've had on Iran along with it. The number two thing that it means is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and not just pursue a nuclear weapon, but procure or try to buy a nuclear weapon as well. That's built into this agreement. And then the third thing is, and this only happens, to be clear, if Iran delivers on their promise. And so there's an approach here where we verify and where there are real benefits so long as Iran meets their end of the obligation. But if the Iranians comply with this deal, it is going to fundamentally transform the Middle East for the next 50 years. It's going to end the war. It's going to make the Middle East more investable. It's going to mean a lot of prosperity, lower energy prices for the American people. This region of the world has been a basket case for my entire life and longer than that. And what the president has really set us to do is to certainly eliminate the nuclear threat of Iran. That's done. But now possibly to build to a new era of Middle East prosperity and success, where it's not a region of the world where the United States has to worry about so much, but where, frankly, we can generate a lot of prosperity for the American people out of that region. That's a very, very big win, and it all happened because the president stuck with it.
Mr. Vice President, first of all, congratulations. It's a great day for our country on President Trump's birthday, no less. I wanted to ask you, Mr. Vice President, what your message is to the American people who have hung in there amid the high gas prices, the president posting on Truth Social, fire up your engines, let the oil flow. A lot of Americans are excited and relieved to see that. We know it's not going to happen all at once, but what is your message to the American people when their primary concern is that price at the pump?
Well, I guess my primary message to the American people is thank you. Because of your patience, I think that we've solved a problem that has plagued this country again for well before I was even born, which is a terrorist supporting Iran that was pursuing a nuclear weapon. We are now at a place here where we can say with confidence they're not going to get a nuclear weapon. And again, if they comply with the broader elements of the deal, this entire region, I mean, think about this. For 40 years, if you've heard about the Middle East as an American, you've heard about war, you've heard about terrorism, you've heard about the constant chaos of the region. What the president has done is created the real space to transform that region, cooperation between the Gulf Arab allies and the Israelis, and now hopefully a new era with the Iranians. Again, we're going to verify and ensure that they're meeting their end of the bargain. But this is just a great thing for the American people. I know that they've suffered from high gas prices. The president has certainly been very concerned about that fact. But what we're going to be able to do is drive down the cost of energy, not just now, but for the long term, and create a real engine of prosperity in the Middle East where Americans benefit from those lower energy prices, lower gas prices, and we don't have the same risk of chaos that we've had for the last generation. That's big, big wins for the American people. I know that this has been a hard time for a lot of Americans, but we have achieved something great for them.
I think Trey has got a question for you, Mr. Vice President.
Mr. Vice President, Trey Inks here in Tel Aviv. I wanted to ask you about the behind the scenes tonight. We saw this announcement by the Iranians that they were planning to strike Israel after Israeli strikes targeted the Lebanese capital of Beirut, going after Hezbollah there. And ultimately, this agreement was reached, a ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon. Could you take us behind the scenes of what that moment was like leading up to this deal actually being signed?
Well, Trey, you're exactly right. I mean, after the Israelis struck Beirut, we were very worried, and we saw a lot of evidence that the Iranians were going to launch a large number of missiles at the Israelis. With our communication with them over the course of getting to this signed peace deal, they assured us that they were not going to respond to the Israelis, and they were going to sign this agreement and get to peace. Now, of course, you always have to verify these things, Trey, and we know that there are a lot of people in the Middle East who do not want to make this deal happen. There's, of course, the Hezbollah terrorist organization. Some elements of that organization are still threatening the Israelis. You have a number of different pieces that are moving. And as you know, Trey, sometimes these ceasefires take a little bit of time to take root. People are very good over there at fighting each other. They haven't quite learned how to make peace. But I think under the president's leadership, we've turned over a new leaf. We're going to keep on working at it. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to sing Kumbaya tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit of time to learn the ways of peace. But I do think we took a major, major step tonight.
Mr. Vice President, it's Guy Benson.
And Mr. Vice President.
Oh, go ahead, Trey.
Mr. Vice President, we understand there will be a signing ceremony in Geneva, Switzerland later this week. Will you attend that ceremony?
I think we're still figuring out the logistics on who's going to attend that signing ceremony. I certainly plan to be there, but it's possible the president himself could be there. We'll figure it out, Trey, but what we know is that we've got a lot of work to do, but a very big win for the American people tonight. We're just going to keep on working at it, keep on driving energy prices down, keep on ensuring that that region of the world is less of a basket case, and finally, and most importantly, celebrate the fact that I think we can say with confidence Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. We got a lot of work to do, but a big win tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Wow. There you have it, you guys. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Things going nuts today. I mean, earlier today, we heard that Israel and Lebanon were launching attacks. Iran was getting ready to attack Israel. We heard that Iran cleared airspace just about 2 hours ago. We had heard they were getting ready to launch ballistic missiles. Israel confirmed it, canceling various events, preparing for ballistic missile attack, preparing to retaliate. Donald Trump getting on the phone, telling Netanyahu, "What are you doing?" Yelling at Iran. Now we're hearing there was an announcement of a deal, and Iran is saying, yeah, there's a deal. We're hearing concessions have been given to Iran. We don't know what they are, but Donald Trump doing this last minute to try to hold the deal together. Israel saying that this is a defeat. This is bad news. Now, a lot of people saying no, like we also saw, I pulled up the X post for you saying, no, this is a step in the right direction. We're going to be seeing a ceasefire for 60 days. The Strait of Hormuz is going to be opening. Oil prices are going to be going down. Gas prices are going to be going down. Troops are going to be withdrawing from the region. This is a step in the right direction. However, a lot of people saying you can't even trust the IRGC. Is this going to last? Are we even going to make it to the signing before we see more attacks unfolding? And we literally have been seeing attacks all day. So let me know your thoughts. We're going to see where this goes. Now, regardless of whether we see peace unfold and things stand and there's some sort of agreement, Iran gives up its nuclear enriched materials, gets rid of any potential for a nuclear program, wherever we go, or if we see things just totally unravel, I'll be sure to report it to you right here on the channel. So that is the latest, but let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen? Now, I did a live stream just a couple of hours ago. As I told you, we heard Iran clear their airspace. We heard the announcement of the executive order to initiate ballistic missiles to fire towards Israel. And now we're hearing there's a peace deal. Things seem to be changing from hour to hour. It is wild. What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to make it to Friday? Yes or no? Let me know your thoughts. Are we going to make it the next 5 days to that signing, or are things going to totally shift? Let me know. But like I said, whatever unfolds, I'll be sure to let you guys know right here on the channel. I'll keep you up to speed on everything. Cite the sources, put it on the screen, play the latest so you can know and rest assured this is the most up-to-date information coming out. Now, if you appreciate that, do me a favor, take a quick second, hit the thumbs up, like button for me. If this is your first time here, subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. And also, if you've been tuning in but haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. It's free. Turn on the notification bell. And I'm going to keep you guys up to speed on whatever unfolds. But I see a lot of people saying no peace, no deal. This is going to fall apart. I'm seeing people say this is false. This is a losing situation. We'll see. I'll keep you up to date. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll